Hey Emma,
Yes, ma'am.
what do you say when you're asking your friend which bobsled team got the bronze medal?
Gosh, I just don't know.
Hey Emma, which are three? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I thought that one, I didn't have
I'm trying to work through it, and I don't... Which
are three? Like, which is in third place?
Oh.
Witcher. Witcher, I barely know. Like, Witcher. Which are?
Oh, I thought you were saying if you're asking which team got the bronze. And it was like asking, like, what's the number 3?
Well, my original concept was like, okay, like you're looking for a 3-pack of something as opposed to a 2-pack or a 4-pack. Oh, 2-pack. That could have been. Anyway. I came up with the punchline before I came up with the joke. Which probably says a lot about the quality.
But very topical. Although,
right?
Is the closing ceremony yesterday? As in Saturday?
I don't know. I know they're coming up.
Yeah, they're at some point.
Or not, or they've already happened.
Yeah.
I
watched the figure skating, and that's about it. Actually, we did watch some bobsled.
I saw some bobsled while I was out on my rare foray to a bar. What does the second guy do? He
works the brakes.
Oh, so he doesn't just kind of lay in tornado drill position.
No, that's what I sort of thought too. He's like an extra, just carrying the weight, the other guy. Or
right? Like, I get that bobsledding is a very dangerous sport, but, like, I sort of thought, like, well, I could do that.
Yeah, no, he works the brakes, and the other guy steers. The more you know.
Yeah, this is actually a sports podcast now.
Yeah, who knew? I'm Emma.
And I'm Madelyn.
Yeah, and we're not a sports podcast because that would be really bad.
Have we even ever talked about a sports game?
No, I don't think we've done that yet.
Because I don't think
FIFA's
skateboarding.
Ever come up. Skateboarding.
Oh, that's true. Disney, yes, and I guess you could make an argument that Burnout. Like
Barbie team gymnastics.
Oh, see, there we go. We have discussed sports games on the podcast.
The serious sports games.
Yes.
The sportiest
of sports games. For real aficionados. Anyway, as usual, here at Talk This, we're going to be discussing one old game and one new game, and then trying to mash them up into a game that takes the best qualities, or that's not even true, some qualities of both, to create what is hopefully, but is very rarely, an even better game.
Yeah. I think this week we've got 2 games that I think, like Splatoon and Team Buddies from last episode, are similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that when I read it. I was like, these feel like they live in the same general realm.
Yeah, so we might have trouble with it again.
I feel like we came up with some good ones for Splatoon and Team Buddies, though.
That's true.
If you haven't
some really
caught that
dark
episode
ones.
yet, go back and learn all about the massacre of the buddies.
Yeah, ones with a lot of murder in them.
Yeah.
But still good. So anyway, without further ado, we are talking about Planescape, Torment, and The Witcher 3. And I honestly don't know if I'm saying the first game right. Because I've not heard anyone say it.
We were just talking about this before we went on the air, and I said, Emma, save it for the show. And now I'm going to steal your joke. She was like, is it Planescape? Is it Planescape? Is it Planescape?
Torment?
Yeah. I don't think it would be Torment. The ah sound from it isn't right.
Torment. Who knows?
It's probably just... Well, they are talking about planes of existence, though, so I think it probably could be Planescape.
I think That's right. Because I think I saw a logo where they were on, like, separated by an icon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Planescape. Let's
Like
go with
RuneScape, but Planescape.
that. Mm-hmm.
RuneScape should go in the old game.
Sure.
Anyway, Planescape Torment is a 1999 PC game that is one of the Dungeons and Dragons video games, which I did not realize were a thing,
Mm-hmm.
but evidently they're a whole series.
Yeah. A lot of them were, Baldur's Gate, for example, was the one that Black Isle Studios was actually famous for, along with Icewind Dale, which I hadn't heard of, but there's a lot of them. But I had heard of Baldur's Gate before, and they're all in this sort of Dungeons and Dragons inspired realm.
And apparently they play by the rules of advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which I don't really understand how that's possible, given that it's a computer game and Dungeons and Dragons is, not. But apparently they play by those rules.
Well, I guess, is it that much different if you just consider the game itself as the Dungeon Master?
I guess that's true. I hadn't thought about it. It's like the whole time I was researching this game, I was thinking to myself, that's so weird. It's like you're alone playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like, you can't do that. And isn't most of the fun of Dungeons and Dragons having your party and that sort of thing? But I guess that's true. If you do think of the game as sort of being a virtual dungeon master, it maybe makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. And you do collect party members. They're just...
That's true.
Virtual party members as opposed to other people.
Anyway, for those of you who have not heard of this game, that's not unusual. It did not sell very well when it came out in 1999, but it's now sort of considered a cult classic, and is a popular addition on the best games of all time, which I always find it fascinating when games that I have literally never heard of, I then find out are like the best of all time.
Yeah, they released an enhanced edition, a different studio since
year.
Black Isle is out of business now, or it doesn't exist anymore, at least. Which is on Steam and has, like, really overwhelmingly positive reviews.
I'm kind of tempted to get it. After reading about this game, it seems fun. As someone who only ever got to play a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons with my younger sister and my dad, it does seem like a good way to sort of dip my toe into that world.
I feel like it's not exactly the realm of Stardew Valley, but it's those sort of games that can kind of consume your life, though. So
I have an aside about Stardew Valley real quick. Folks, if you haven't seen the article on this yet, I should probably share it this week. Did you know that Black Panther's director is very into Stardew Valley right now, to the point that he does not have time to play Zelda Breath of the Wild? He's too busy gardening. You know what? Like, it makes sense. He's on a stressful press tour. All I want to do is farm. Anyway, we still have not really explained what Planescape Torment is about. So, you play as... It's the nameless one, right?
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. But I'm pretty sure it's the nameless one.
It is the nameless one.
Well, I couldn't remember if it was, like, the unnamed one or...
No, it's nameless.
And so you've just awoken in a crypt, a morgue. And this part reminded me of Zelda a little bit, because then you have, like, a skull that's, like, telling you what to do. Like, a very dark Legend of Zelda. But you're this nameless one, and you've been reincarnated, like, over and over and over again. You're kind of this immortal... I mean, you're a zombie, right? But the game doesn't treat you as a zombie. And you're on this sort of quest to understand the nature of your existence, basically. And along the way, doing all sorts of Dungeons and Dragons-y quests, minus dragons and that sort of thing, because they were trying to avoid stereotypical RPG elements. So it's an RPG, but notably, it's a game where combat is actually... not discouraged exactly, but certainly a side feature in comparison to story. Which I think is interesting for a game that came out in 1999. Like, very ahead of its time in terms of that.
Yeah, like, most of the fights that are even there, most of them, almost all of them, can also be solved through like dialogue or other
Stealth.
means. Yeah, stealth.
And in true Dungeons and Dragons fashion, so in real Dungeons and Dragons, of course, you get to pick sort of your affiliation, right? If you're going to be lawful, if you're going to be neutral, if you're going to be chaotic, and if you're going to be... It's not... Is it good and evil? That's wrong.
I think it's...
Right?
No, it is good and evil.
No, it is. Yes, lawful good. Yeah, it's good, or good, neutral, and evil. And so, in real Dungeons and Dragons, you pick right away when you start your game, when you're building your character, you say, oh, I'm going to be lawful good, or chaotic neutral, or yada yada yada. But in this game, your actions in this, like, morality system, again, way ahead of its time, your actions determine what your affiliation is going to be, and then that affects how people treat you throughout the game.
Yeah, you start at true neutral, and then everything pushes you in one way or the other.
Which I think is, well, one, it's this early example of a morality system, but it's like for the first time people were saying, like, oh, like, in RPGs, like, you always have to be this, like, do-gooder, right? This hero, and people were getting really sick of it. And so a lot of the praise that Planescape Torment got was that you can actually play as a villain, like, and successfully, right? That it's just as valid a play style.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that games still today kind of suffer, like, one route is always seems better than the other one as far as story goes, especially because a lot of morality systems now really just have the two system, like, you did something good or you did something bad. Whereas this one, I like the idea of it, at least, because it's a little bit more complicated. As opposed to just being like, you did bad, you did good.
Yeah, it's much more incremental than that.
Yeah.
And also just because it has that sort of two-pronged system, it has a little bit more complexity. But it's also just really creative. I was reading there are 800,000 words in the script, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
I don't really understand how that's possible. But I get it, right? Everybody has to have different interactions for all of your kind of different affiliations. So I get where it comes from. But that seems massively ambitious for a PC game from 1999. And it did answer sort of one of my questions about this, is I feel like the hardest thing to adapt about Dungeons & Dragons is, like, the really stupid things that people can do. Like, I should share... I've been seeing some great, like, memes about this lately of just dumb players, right? And things that surprise the Dungeon Master, and the Dungeon Master who has crafted this, like, perfect story, and, like, their players are just, like, completely screwing it up, right? And doing things that are unexpected. And so I think what's always been appealing to me about Dungeons and Dragons is it's just like you're creating this story together and things can happen. And I think I've written about this in reference to Dad of Light, my still orphaned Watch This blog. One day I'll watch Castlevania, folks. I'll get there someday. I keep promising it. But I really like Dungeons and Dragons television episodes. I always like them when they come up on TV shows that I watch. I wish Stranger Things had been more about them playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And less about them doing whatever they're doing in season 2.
Running around.
And so I'm interested to play this, if only to see how does the game give you that kind of freedom? Like, how much freedom do you have? Surely it can't be as much as you have when you're just playing with your real life party.
Well, sure.
I mean, yeah, I know.
I mean, you can't program the limitless bounds of human creativity into
I know,
a game.
that's not exactly what I meant. I meant, of course, I know that it cannot be that.
Yeah.
But I want to see if it still feels like playing Dungeons and Dragons when that's not how it operates.
Yeah. It's also, like, I always forget, like, whenever there are those, like, old isometric dungeon crawler type looks. Like, the Gauntlet we played was sort of like that, right?
Which Gauntlet?
I don't know. Do you know the style I'm talking about, though?
Well, this one is 2D.
Is it 2D? But isn't it, like, at an angle?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Oh, okay, so you're talking about, like, the Gauntlet. I'm not totally sure.
Well, it's in that, like, old style that... I don't know why. I feel like sometimes we play games like that and it always, like, throws me off because I forget it's, like, a way that games look.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly not something that really exists anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you are sort of looking over your character's shoulder, right? But it's still kind of 2D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like from above, but also at an angle.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. I guess we just didn't... We always played, like, sort of third-person-y type games. So I'm used to that viewpoint, which is why I suck at first-person shooters and most other games.
That's why I suck at games.
Yeah. Play too much of one version, one type.
Yeah. It's a discussion for another day. It's a discussion we have on, like, every episode of the podcast. So why are we not actually that good at games?
Who knows? Honestly, we should be.
I feel like we're perfectly fine at games.
Have I not devoted my, like, 10,000 hours to video games yet? Where's my mastery? Why am I not the Beatles of video games?
Well, maybe you are. You know, can beat that one drum beat really good. Just kidding. Ringo is an important part of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be fancy. Just has to get the job done. Just like my video game style.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I have something to add about this game. So I was reading about it on Wikipedia. They describe it as an avant-garde fantasy, which sometimes I feel like is a good, accurate way to describe my life.
What?
Like an avant-garde fantasy. But similarly, they say the rats are hard to defeat in this game, which feels like maybe now I shouldn't play it.
Are you afraid of rats now that you live in the city?
I've never liked rats.
Well, sure.
And I do live in fear of seeing another one.
But what about Pizza Rat? Isn't
Pizza Rat is
your mascot? Your city's mascot now?
No. No. I mean, I guess. Sometimes I feel like Pizza Rat, but no.
Okay.
Any games that have hard to defeat rats or rats at all, that's a -1 in my style.
But this is also like a really, and this is probably a good transition into our other game, but like the reason I don't play games like this is because they're so, they demand so much of your time, you know, to experience everything and get in everything. And I suppose that's good. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck, but I just am never able to sit with a game for that long. Like,
yeah, I
probably
feel like I was playing a lot of video games over, like, not that I even have a winter vacation, really, right? But over quote-unquote winter break, I was playing a lot of video games, and I still don't think I ever played a single game for more than a couple hours at a time.
But it's even just like having one game, like playing that one game for 2 months. You know, like the things I've probably spent the most time with are Persona 5 and Final Fantasy 15. And even then, like, I don't know if it took me as long as like, neither of them, I did not spend, like, more than 100 hours with either of them. I just can't imagine doing that in one sitting.
100 hours in one sitting?
No, I mean, in one, like, just playing that game mostly. For a spree of 100 hours.
I get that.
Breaking it up with other games.
I have too many games that I have to play.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm playing like 5 games. There's a reason I did not get back to Birth by Sleep for 2 months, and it's because I've been playing like 5 other games.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's like that, and our other game, The Witcher 3, is very much like that.
So I guess that's our transition. This is our like games that are on people's all-time great lists week. Even according to Wikipedia. Did you know that Wikipedia has a page dedicated to games that have appeared on a lot of best of lists?
I'm not shocked.
Which both of these games appear on that page. So The Witcher 3 was released in 2015?
Was it 2015? Maybe. I guess it was released in 2015, and then maybe the DLCs came out in 2016. But the DLCs were, like, big enough to be considered their own games, essentially. Because Blood and Wine was the second one. I can't actually remember the first one's name, but Blood and Wine was the far more popular and acclaimed one, I think. And it won a lot of Game of the Year awards, even though it was technically an expansion.
Yeah, so the Game of the Year edition with the base game, expansion packs, and all downloadable content was released in August of 2016, but the actual original first game was released in May 19th of 2015.
Mm-hmm. Wild Hunt.
Yes, The Wild Hunt. I have not been giving the full title. The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
The Wild Hunt sounds like a name of a band that I might like.
It does, doesn't it?
It's like they probably have a banjo player.
Yeah.
It's probably like it sounds like they would open for The Last Bison.
So The Witcher 3 is the sequel to The Witcher 2.
Thanks.
But it's my understanding that you don't really have to have played all of them to... Your choices, at least, don't carry over from one to the other, right? So you don't have to have played The Witcher or The Witcher 2 to jump into The Witcher 3. But they're developed by CD Projekt Red and based off a series of Polish novels called The Witcher series, which I think is like Polish Game of Thrones, essentially. But it follows... what's the guy's name? Something that starts with the G. Oh no. No. They're all judging me. The listeners are judging me.
You can cut this out. You could just splice it away. It's Geralt of Rivia.
Geralt of Rivia is the protagonist. And in The Witcher 3, he has to find his adopted daughter, Ciri. Ciri? Yes. Not spelled like Siri the iPhone, but with a C. So maybe
Wouldn't
it's
that be
Curie,
a twist?
Oh,
the
man.
whole time he's just looking for his iPhone.
Actually, I don't know if it would be pronounced Curie or Siri.
I'm sure in the game he probably says it.
I'm sure he does. You're
Given
right.
that this game was developed for 3.5 years, and 2.5 of that was for recording.
Yeah. Because I think it's all voiced. There isn't any part of it that is not voice acted, and there's dialogue options.
This is the future, people.
Yeah. So that's like the main plot conceit, is that he is searching for his adoptive daughter. But most of the time you're just sort of riding around on your horse, meeting people, romancing people, causing trouble, drinking at bars.
Boxing, card playing.
Gwent is insanely popular that they're making a game, a real world Gwent for people to play. Like that's they have 2 projects going on right now. One of them is Gwent. Cuz why not? People want it.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah. But yeah, so a Witcher is essentially a monster hunter that has supernatural powers, and there aren't very many of them. So, as I was reading the Wikipedia article, and I thought it was really funny. They were explaining what Geralt can do, and it was like, for the first time in the series,
I literally just read that right now.
Swim, and what's the other thing?
That's it. I think it's he can jump, he can swim, he can climb.
Climb for the first time in the series, people. Oh my god, jumping!
He's been hitting the wellness center.
Yeah. So he can do a bunch of magic stuff and has different weapons, and it's third-person fantasy combat. Not that complicated. But people just love it because it's so personalizable and customizable, and every dialogue option is voiced and is good and makes sense, and there's a whole bunch of little stories you can have and go through, and you can play it for literally a million years if you want to, because you just will never run out of things to do, really. Especially if you've got the two Hearts of Stone is the first one, and then Blood and Wine. Like, you just will never run out of things to do.
I read an article a few months ago, like long before, like probably before The Witcher was even in the hat, honestly, about someone who had played through it all. And so, like, there are a lot of potential endings, right?
Mm-hmm. There's 32 endings, which isn't, like, everything's different in each 32. It's just that it's like 32 ways the world can end up by the end of the game. So some of these endings have to do with sort of like how good of a dad you were, right? Mm-hmm. And this guy, I can't remember if it was a guy or a girl, and it's sexist to me to assume it was a man, but I'm pretty sure it was, because a woman would not be this, like, lack of perceptive. So this guy was like, the whole time he was like, oh yeah, like, I'm kicking butt as being a dad. Like, I'm taking care of her, like, I'm being great. He gets to the end, and he gets, like, the worst ending. Yeah. Wow.
And he realizes, like, all these times where he's done, like, been, like, completely callous to his daughter. And just, like, I'll post it on Facebook this week, because it was pretty funny. Yeah. So it's really a game about learning how to parent.
Yeah, pretty much. And the bad ending's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, here it is. I accidentally got the worst ending in The Witcher 3.
Oh my god. This person should not have children, clearly. Or maybe he should. Maybe he's learned.
My reward for 110 hours of hard work? Accidentally being a terrible dad.
Yeah, but like, there's three sort of what I would think of as main endings that have to do with your relationship with your daughter, and a couple of other things. And then it's just like, who's ruling this area at the end of the game. But I mean, people like the story of The Witcher, but I don't think a lot of people play it to finish it necessarily. It's sort of like Breath of the Wild in that sense, where it's like you could spend easy 100 hours with Breath of the Wild and be perfectly happy with your experience and have never finished the story.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I can't play that way because I want a conclusion. But then when I get to the conclusion, I don't necessarily want to go back and play the game more. So I'm in this weird space where open world games don't really work for me. Mm-hmm. Like, very small, contained open worlds sort of work for me, but big things like The Witcher just don't. Although I'm super intrigued by the project that CD Projekt Red is purportedly working on now. Which is like an even bigger open world with, like, language barriers. It's very ambitious.
I'm sorry, I've been skimming this guy's article and it's still so funny. So, like, he sees all these flashbacks. Like, at the end you see these, like, flashbacks of, like, dad moments, right?
Of dad moments.
Right? And he's like, these are from The Witcher 2. Like, I don't remember this at all. Like, I don't remember treating her this badly. And then he has the bad ending happen, which I won't spoil. But, like, he's like, this can't be the ending. Like, he's literally the quote is, but I still kept thinking, okay, but where are the dad endings?
Oh my god.
And then he goes to the Kotaku Slack, and he's like, was I a bad dad? Like, DLC fixes this, right? Sweet, sweet DLC. And he's like, this is why the DLC is so good, because it fixes this. And it doesn't.
Oh my god. This poor guy. That could be its own video game, honestly.
Hang on, here's another quote. I even thought at one point, up too late playing, a little drunk, that it was a shame I'll probably never be a father since I could make this virtual daughter so happy.
Oh, this poor man.
Yeah.
But it's really funny to compare The Witcher 3, which uses a dialogue system, like an animation, like they plug in animations for characters to do, right? And like Mass Effect Andromeda, which uses the same, like plug in the what they do at certain points. And I just did like a robot hands, which is basically what they do in Mass Effect Andromeda. They fixed it some, but when they first came out, let's be real. And just like how it looks like, it doesn't look like they plugged in motions for these people. It looks like they actually sort of, if you're not like watching intently for every single motion they make, it looks like they actually did it all in the moment, right?
That's
but it's
incredible.
Actually, because they have so many is what it is. It still ends up being less work than doing each thing individually, but you have tons and tons of motions that you can plug in and make it look like they're actually sort of reacting as opposed to going through motions.
That's so interesting.
I find that that sort of animation like really fascinating, and how you can get it to work and not work. This is entirely off topic and not at all a game like that, but I played Life is Strange way back when it first came out, and I didn't really notice until about episode 3, and then it became really obvious and bugged me throughout the rest of the game. But they just cycle through the same like 5 animations as they're talking, all of them at the same time. Like they'll swipe under their eye and like sort of do like a shuffle, and like they just have like when they're just talking to each other, not like in scenes, but if you're just talking to someone, they'll just cycle through the same 5 animations. It's like, oh god, Max is swiping under her eye again. Dear God, stop it, please. But stuff like this, it's amazing how they can make it feel natural even though it's not.
And it's the little things like that that make a game that go from that distinguish a really good game from these games that are on this sort of pantheon of the greatest of all time. I think.
Yeah,
it's
very
that attention
true.
to detail and those little things that pull you out of it. Because like obviously that really pulled you out of Life is Strange, right?
Yeah.
Like you're.
I mean
watching...
that and a lot of things, but that was something that was really easy to get annoyed at.
And it feels like something that could be. I mean, how much work could it take to at least just have them stand still?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be better if they just stood still than instead of, like, having perpetually, like, itchy eyes or whatever? Like, I don't even understand what you're describing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, they'll just sort of, like, swipe over their cheek. I don't know. I'm not even doing it right.
That's not even a motion that people
right.
do. Like, who just, like, does, like, oh, I'm swiping over my cheek?
I'm not sure I'm doing it right, because, like, parts of it's sort of, I think it's sort of like brushing hair away from her face, but people who don't have hair also do it. So I don't know. Animation is cool, people. Do a good job.
Good pitch, Emma.
Thanks.
So how are we gonna mash up these two games? They're both very high quality.
Mm-hmm.
They're both RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
They're both sort of set in these fantasy kind of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
One more than the other, but, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on how this mashup works, where I don't just create The Witcher
4
with like, a zombie.
Immortal. It's hard. Because they really are, like, besides, like, their style and obviously, like, how new and old they are, they're really similar.
Right? They both kind of have the morality system of the day.
Mm-hmm.
They're slightly different, of course, but, 32 endings is not so different from, 9 different kind of temperaments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little stumped.
I know. I mean, I feel like you just take the idea of you just make Breath of the Wild.
Kind of, right?
You got the amnesiac, immortal-ish hero wakes up in a crypt. Only it's the third-person 3D style.
Can pretty much die without consequence.
Yeah.
A lot of different ways to play the game. I guess Link should probably have a kid.
Yeah, true.
Or like a cousin, at least.
A cousin. Cousin Link.
So they just match up. We've not been doing a good job lately of picking games that are different, because they match up just a little too neatly.
Next, if this happens this time, we should just pick another game.
That's cheating.
I know. I want to cheat. But, okay, so you got that part. But you also have to go hunt monsters. And
you
each
sort
monster
of do that, don't you?
You slay reveals another part of yourself from your past.
Why? How?
Because they are... This is just... I'm just describing Breath of the Wild. I just realized that again. It's literally what you do in Breath of the Wild. You go hunt the divine beasts and you remember your comrades as you do that. Oh,
so,
man.
do we have a pitch for you, Nintendo?
Nintendo, you'll love this. You just take the Legend of Zelda out from in front of it so it doesn't sell anything. Ooh.
Torture the Wild Hunt.
I don't know.
There's literally not a way to do it. They don't... Like, if we're doing that thing like we talked about with Tetris those many months ago, where we're, like, trying to pull out the essential things, the essential things from these games are the same.
Yeah. How about Planescape, but with more geopolitical turmoil?
That sounds awful.
I don't know if there's a lot of geopolitical turmoil in Planescape. It's very possible there is.
I know there's a very famous moment in Planescape where you have to, like, literally kill yourself to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we could incorporate that into The Witcher.
Maybe.
You kill yourself to get your daughter's love.
Wow, that's dark.
And then you reincarnate, so it's fine.
Oh, never mind.
Because in Planescape, it's like, you have to get into the morgue.
That's
right?
emotionally manipulative.
Yeah, fine. Who cares? In Planescape, there's, like, some point where you need to get into the morgue, and the only way you can do it is by, like, killing your character, and then they'll, like, take you into the morgue, and then you'll reincarnate.
That's interesting.
Right? Pretty clever gameplay mechanic there.
Yeah. Gameplay as storytelling, you might say.
Whoa!
Ooh, check out our YouTube. Wink.
Yeah, so since our game of our mashup game, I'm content with it just being Breath of the Wild.
It really is.
So
Planescape, and you heard it here, Nintendo is ripping off some people.
Breath of the Wild Hunt. That's the game. Great, we've done it. So you should consider bringing us on to your video game company to pitch you game ideas, because we've got lots of great ones.
Game ideas that already exist. What if it was Breath of the Wild, but there was no Zelda? That was the sound of all game developers' minds exploding from wonder.
That was the sound of them shutting the door. Anyway, as Emma so gracefully segged, have you subscribed to our YouTube channel yet?
'Cause you should.
It's called Talk the Sisters. Emma does a monthly video series where she analyzes gameplay as storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I guess not this past week, the week before last, she posted her first episode, which is about the tutorial of Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
And how it helps you to empathize and connect with Sora.
Yeah.
It's really great. I like it a lot. I liked it so much that I give the little video a thumbs up. And you should do the same and subscribe so you can catch all the videos, because there's going to be more coming very soon.
And the next one, which will be in 3 or 4 weeks, third Thursday in March, so 4 weeks, pretty much exactly. I will be doing Chapter 4 of Danganronpa V3 and how it makes you physically break apart your friendships.
You should also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talk This Podcast, or just Talk This, It's Dangerous Podcast alone if you're on Facebook. Mm-hmm. On Facebook, we post articles and videos and such that are of interest to us under the guise of my Read This series. We've already teased a bunch of those in the episode today, and I'll probably remember to post like 2 of them. So get excited. On Twitter, we post a lot of the same stuff we post on our other social media channels, but it's all there in, what is it now, 260 characters or less.
Yeah.
Plus every once in a while you'll get
280 characters, isn't it?
I don't know.
Didn't they double it?
That makes more sense than 260. But it's all there in pithy form. Plus you'll every once in a while, not every once in a while, more often than that, especially now that we're trying to pivot to Twitter since Facebook is hiding us from most of our fans.
Yeah.
Loving that new algorithm. You'll get some of our witty game thoughts every once in a while.
And sometimes you'll get Emma asking for help on a game thing when she couldn't figure out how to work the elevator in Iconoclasts. It's by pressing the up button.
Proud of you, Emma.
Thank you.
On our Instagram, you'll frequently see lots of video game memes, plus updates on our YouTube channel and our website, blog, which you can find at www.talkthispodcast.com. Mm-hmm. While you're there, you can look at all of our episodes and figure out where you can find them. Hint, it's on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and something else.
Tune in.
Thank you. As well as looking at our blog, with the long-running series, Buzz This, Clickbait Boyfriend, Watch This, if I ever get around to watching something video game related ever again. I was just watching Wreck-It Ralph because it was on television. So that actually could tell you when this was recorded. Because I think it aired nationwide. Sidebar, why are we putting Frozen on Broadway when we could have Wreck-It Ralph?
Good question.
Maybe I'll write that blog.
Well, they're making a sequel to it at least, aren't they?
Yeah, November. Anyway, maybe I'll write a blog about my proposed Wreck-It Ralph musical.
Nice.
Probably not, but I'll consider it. If enough people tweet at me to do it, maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, tweet at us.
Let's see. What else? You can read our show notes from many, many moons ago.
From up to July 2017.
I did promise I was going to be caught up by June. So far, I have done nothing. So, again, please at me to try to shame me into doing it.
Yeah. I went back and updated some of the ones that have updates, but I didn't add anything new.
That's nice of you. Thanks, Em.
You're welcome.
So, I think that's all of the plugging and promoting I have to do. We have to pick our new and old games.
Oh, yeah.
Also, next week, while Emma's getting those hats, you should tune in for a side quest where we'll talk about what we've been playing these past few weeks. Hint, there's going to be a lot of games we've been playing.
Talk about Emma's saga of not knowing how the elevator works. So look forward to that.
Riveting. All right. Pick something from a hat.
Tell me when for the old game. Tell me when.
When?
Miss Pac-Man.
Oh, nice. Speaking of Wreck-It
Uber
Ralph.
old. Specifically Miss.
Yeah, Ms.
Because that's super different. Ms. That's true. It's Ms, isn't it?
Thank you.
Ms. Pac-Man. Okay.
This is derogatory.
Tell me
All right,
when.
pick the new. Go.
reigns, Her Majesty.
Two strong, I don't know anything about that game, but two strong women. We've once again picked games that are very on theme.
We once again will probably have trouble with this because they're two pretty simple games.
Woo!
Yeah.
What a streak we're on!
Look forward to more. I don't know. What about you?
What about you? Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends about Talk This if you enjoyed this episode, or even if you thought this episode was okay. Tell your friends, tell them to subscribe, tell them to leave us comments, reviews, follow us. It really makes our day.
Yeah.
And on that note, Emma, you wanna sign off for us today?
We hope that we made your day.
Whoa.